few videos ago, I stated why I disliked Cait Sith and why he was easy to overlook in Final Fantasy VII. While that video was intended to share my initial distaste for the cat, I also made it to find some silver linings about him as a character. It was through this process of researching and making that video that I was able to find some redeeming qualities for the animatronic feline after poking fun at him. But I also said that looking at just 10 seconds of promotional footage for the dude inspired a ton of confidence toward his presence in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, mainly when we see him in battle. In that video I also said that the gambler job class just wasn't fun. I said that gambling was only fun in real life and Dragon Quest games. You may or may not be aware that my profile picture is the hero from Dragon Quest. Specifically, he's the hero from Dragon Quest IV. Play that game if you like JRPGs, it's a role-playing masterpiece. But Hero is my main in competitive Smash Bros. And what I really like about playing as Hero in Smash Bros is that, other than the fact that one of his best moves involves him catching lightning, he plays like a traditional JRPG party member in an action-based fighting game, with an undeniable nod to RNG. Every time you use the hero's gimmick in Smash Bros, which is pulling up his menu to look at magic spells and assessing whether or not you have the resources to pull some straight jank out of your butt, his base playstyle feels like going to the casinos that you'll find in any Dragon Quest game, trying your luck, and winning. This is all to say that Cait Sith is the Dragon Quest casino. So yeah, as predicted, Cait Sith rules. I've told some of you this in the comments already, but with an exception to story-related content, once the little guy entered my party, he never left it. I've spent at least 50 hours playing as him, and in this video, I'll provide some character design insight, as well as give you a basic breakdown of how Cait Sith handles in battle. Spoiler alert, he's busted. Now, I want you to look at this picture. Let this image burn into your memory. Here's another image for posterity, and also because it looks really cool going up against a Gigantuar's 10,000 Needles attack. This is the synergy attack called Moogle First Class Soldier. When Cloud and Cait Sith have enough synergy bars filled, they pull a Voltron and attack their target simultaneously stacked atop each other like so. It's equal parts goofy and awesome, and I love it. Let me tell you about Cait Sith's original concept. In order to do that, we have to look at his character profile from the planning stages. During the planning stages for the original Final Fantasy VII, written next to Cait Sith's character design in Tetsuya Nomura's handwriting, was the word Toysaurus. When I first read that word, well, how could I not think about this image? My knee-jerk reaction was, alright, now that's actually the coolest job title class I've ever heard. But what can we glean from that moniker beyond just being a cool-sounding portmanteau? We're going to explore exactly what a Toysaurus is, because what's more curious is that next to this working job title were some words that were familiar to me. Beastmaster. The Beastmaster job class was first introduced and, as far as I know, only ever seen in Final Fantasy V. With this particular job, you could use the catch command ability and, to no one's surprise, catch monsters in your Beast Gourd. You could then release those monsters from your Beast Gourd to launch some neat one-time attacks, in addition to controlling or forcing them to infight with their friends. Keep in mind that this battle design concept was several years before Pokemon. A character with the Beastmaster job equipped was also able to hang out in the party's back row, the area of the battlefield where you have less of a chance of getting hit. But if your character's name isn't Barrett, placing them in the back row has other consequences. If you're attacked in the back row, you receive less damage, but you also dole out less physical damage. The Beastmaster, much like Barrett, could negate that last debuff by equipping the Whip weapon. We can trace this Beastmaster lineage to Cait and his Mogdoll in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but instead of a whip, Cait Sith has another tool that is used by circus ringmasters, the Megaphone. The Megaphone has some great damage per second up close, but it can also levy some nice ranged sound bubble attacks from afar, albeit at a slower pace than what Cloud can produce with his ranged attacks. At a distance, his ranged attacks can be used in succession 4 times, but I generally like to stick to Cait's close quarter attacks. I prefer to combo 3 to 4 light attacks with Cait Sith, followed by 1 heavy attack, which does up to 6 consecutive heavy hitting attacks that build ATB faster. This should be enough to fill an ATB bar, which is the cost required to summon the Mogdoll. This also combos well because summoning your Mog can deal heavy damage, and it can also rebuild the ATB you just spent to summon the Mog in the first place, so long as you make contact with your foe. Cait Sith also has a nice area of effect attack when you press and hold the square button, which can build his ATB faster in addition to juggling enemies. You want to think of the Mogdoll like a full-time familiar, or a fursona, if you will. Low-hanging fruit and Jotaro Kujo aside, this adorable stuffed magical beast with a pristine thread count is like a permanent beast under Cait Sith's control. In the original Final Fantasy VII, Cait Sith doesn't feel like a Beastmaster. He feels more like the gambler job class than anything. Mechanically speaking, this would make him like a souped-up, dorkier version of Setzer from Final Fantasy VI. In Rebirth, he's the complete opposite. The Mogdal feels integral to Cait's battle kit because it is. As I said before, summoning the Moogle takes one full ATB bar, but is no different from the requirements Cloud needs to activate Prime Mode, or Aerith obtaining and then using her equally busted Radiant Ward. And once the Mogdal is out, your playtime becomes inversely proportional to your enemies. Cait Sith acts as a sort of puppeteer character from a fighting game. Of course, you could reference multiple fighting games to communicate his fighting style, but we'll stick to Smash Bros. Because it's the fighting game I have the most knowledge about. The characters notorious for puppeteer booling are the Ice Climbers, which are famously known for the wobble, a high-level skill technique that allows the Ice Climber player to infinitely build damage against one's opponent in competitive play, so long as the Ice Climber player can continue the combo. The wobble tech is an example of a desync. A desync places a character's puppet on the field, which then follows a delayed attack input but manages to gain extra attacks for the pair. This sort of input isn't necessarily possible with Cait because his Mogdal acts on its own. However, once his moveset is engraved into your synapses, you can understand how to use it to your advantage. The best example is whenever Cait Sith is casting a spell. Once Cait Sith is readying magic, the Mogdal will hone in on and then proceed to Swan Dive Bomb the nearest enemy, allowing for 2 actions to be performed at once. The same will happen once Cait Sith is dismounted. You can perform a magic attack or a physical attack while his Mogdal is in the background just wreaking havoc. The Mogdal will antagonize any surrounding enemies, while Cait Sith is free to use his own separate attacks. The doll will even hang around and attack even if Cait Sith is downed in battle. This makes Cait Sith the only party member in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that is able to bring your party's battle configuration to its traditional 4-character roots, with the condition that control of the Mogdal is tied to specific actions while its master is active. This dynamic is not to be confused with Yuffie, who can summon a doppelganger. The condition of the doppelganger is that it will only copy Yuffie's attacks, but is never able to act independently like the Mogdal can. The last thing that I'd like to mention in this section is to press and hold the square button while riding the Moogle. This will make the pair roll quickly toward whichever enemy is in your sights. Knowing how and when to use this move makes Cait Sith one of the fastest party members. Continuing to press and hold the square button near an enemy should be your primary method of attack while mounted. This will cause Cait Sith to do some of his best base damage that also builds the stagger meter passively, similar to Barrett's bonus round ability and Red 13's basic attack. Focusing more on the gambler side of the Toysaurus equation, let's cover Cait Sith's luck-based actions. The first is the Mogdal's passive ability, the Moogle meter. This is registered at the triangle button. Pressing triangle at the end of a combo at level 1 performs the dropkick attack. However, once the Moogle meter fills and you have 1 full ATB bar, the Moogle meter will be at level 2, allowing you to roll 1 to 3 beneficial attacks. Fight will simulcast Bravery and Faith, giving every party member a higher attack and a higher magic attack. Go Wild will give everyone Berserk, which will increase their attack. And Defense will simulcast Protect and Shelter the party. If Cait Sith has 2 full ATB bars at the time of the Moogle meter filling, it will instead reach level 3, granting Cait Sith 4 new self-evident attacks. If you want to fill the Moogle meter faster, it's best to not dropkick. Instead, repeatedly press the square button while mounted on the Moogle to the point where the pair is marching band dismembering its enemies. This move looks ineffective at first, but like holding the square button with the solo Cait Sith, it can subversively crowd control your enemies. Roll the dice, surprise surprise, rolls a 6-sided die. Where the die lands will grant a different outcome depending on the number rolled. 1 performs a Fire and Thunder dual cast. 2 performs a non-elemental hyper beam that's not as something cool as Dragonite can produce. It does act like a heavy damage ranged attack, however, even if it looks pathetic. Rolling a 3 dual casts Arrow and Blizzard. 4 will magnify Cast Fury on everyone, allowing their limit gauges to build faster while making them more vulnerable to enemy damage, which also actually leads to faster earned limit breaks. Roll a 5 and you'll magnify a Regen spell on your party with Regenerative Aura. And rolling a 6 will cast Shield on the entire party. One more neat aspect about Roll of the Dice is that you're able to run into the die after it's been cast in order to manipulate its outcome a bit, which leaves you feeling less like a gambler and more like the house. if only for a moment. The fortune-telling attack is another attack that's luck-based, as the luck stat will determine whether it's a stud or a complete dud. You can shift the odds in your favor. There's a passive ability in Cait Sith's Folio that helps add luck to his stats. And there's also a passive ability for his best weapon that adds 100 luck while he's riding the Moogle. So you shouldn't have to rely on RNGesus as your lord and savior. This makes fortune telling an all-around excellent move once you have those passive luck abilities. And speaking of staggering, Cait Sith has two abilities that really help the party's overall damage potential. Lady Luck allows the entire party to have consistent critical damage. Moogle Knuckle builds 40% stagger damage each time it's used. The only other party member capable of causing this much stagger bonus damage would be Tifa. So, if you want a busted team that is high risk, high reward, stick Cait Sith with Tifa and Aerith. I used a lot of Cloud and Barret with Cait, and I felt like a powerhouse, so I can only imagine how I would feel with everyone that has the potential to cause stagger bonus damage. Finally, we have the Moogle Magic and Lucky Slot abilities. Moogle Magic allows Cait Sith to use the summon that he has equipped without having to burn 2 ATB bars required to summon in the first place. When you think about it like that, a summon ability that normally costs 1 ATB bar requires a total investment of 3 ATB bars without the use of Moogle Magic, so that's already a good incentive to use the ability. I haven't really experimented with this ability, because I don't enjoy having the summon bar in my HUD while I'm recording Rebirth gameplay. But this is a nice trade-off if you can roll a summon ability that would cost 2 ATB bars to normally use. You're essentially saving 2 ATB bars total when you do that. Lucky Slots functions a bit like the original game with some nice rewards. The 3 stars increases all parties' limit breaks. 3 Mogdalls summons a homing missile in the form of a 32-bit Mog that deals explosive damage. Getting all crowns drops crowns everywhere. 3 bars will cause heavy stagger damage to all enemies, and my favorite, the 3 hearts, will cast resist and re-raise on everyone. Resist will make it impossible to debuff the party. Further adding to the silliness, Cait Sith has his limit breaks. I haven't tested all the limit breaks to see if they change, but I know that his level 2 magic box oscillates between summoning a storm of stuffed dolls that deal heavy damage and a purplish black hole that also wrecks enemies. The level 1 magic box will shoot rockets at enemies, and the level 3 magic box will summon a fat chocobo to pancake the enemy. Without the Mogdall around, Cait probably has the worst disadvantage out of any party member. This is because his close quarter and ranged attacks, like his penchant to slowly build momentum, intentionally take a bit longer. True to his Toysaurus job class, you can think of him like a wind-up toy. You have to invest the time to get him going. As long as Cait Sith has his Mogdall summoned, he can use disadvantage to his advantage. There are 3 abilities that communicate this facet well: Dodge and Dive, Moogle Kaboom, and Moogle Mine. Dodge and Dive is pretty self-explanatory. Cait Sith dodges while his Moogle dives. If an attack is coming your way and you have 1 ATB, pull your menu and select this move. Cait Sith will jump out of harm's way and fling the Mogdall at the enemy for a powerful attack that will do heavy damage, while also building half of the ATB lost. Performed at the right time, you can actually use this move in conjunction with the Let's Ride ability to do a sort of catch and release kite action to the enemy with minimal diminishing return on your ATB investment. Of course, I found a better way to use this move. Pair it with Moogle Kaboom. Moogle Kaboom will make star-spangled bombs appear for the Mogdall to gorge. Once he eats all of these, he's now a time bomb, ready to explode once his health reaches 0. Though, you shouldn't wait for that to happen. If you wait for the Mogdall's health to run out, you risk blowing up Cait Sith, causing severe damage to both the enemy and him. Instead, after gaining Moogle Kaboom, immediately try and use Dodge and Dive, resummon the doll with Let's Ride, and you should be able to rinse, wash, and repeat those abilities. It's fairly busted. If you're dealing with enemies that like to spastically move across the battlefield, use Moogle Mine to punish the jank. This ability, true to its name, will place a bunch of stuffed toy animal mines in the Mogdall's immediate vicinity, ready to deal some explosive damage to any enemies that are running near you. You can also use this move to your advantage once the boss is at disadvantage to add some extra blows to the Mogdall's punches, as the mines will increase the enemy's stagger bar in addition to doing some haphazard explosive damage. If you doubt Cait Sith's efficacy on the battlefield, you should probably play him more. He's one of the best fighters in the game, if not the best party member. His base stats boast a high magic attack, effective stagger damage without the need to use abilities, and he can make his own luck, which leads to better attacks in general. To give you an effective demonstration, I used a Cloud, Barret, and Yuffie team when fighting the double summon boss battles per the advice of Sweet Johnny Cage. This channel has effective guides on those bosses, by the way, so check him out if you're in need of help. But after 2 hours of getting wrecked by Odin and Alexander, I was pretty fed up with their cheap tricks. So I subbed Yuffie out and replaced her with Cait Sith and won my first attempt. I was also able to beat Gilgamesh, who is one of the more difficult bosses in the game, using Cait Sith with Cloud and Barret. So that's Cait Sith for you, and now you know what the Toysaurus job class is all about. If you wanted to give it some anime flavor description, it's kind of like Nier fighting Kira in Death Note, setting up all his toys while he's playing these elaborate mind games with a psychopath. That payoff that you get at the end of Death Note, spectacular. That's what playing Cait Sith feels like. But if you want a more relatable example, it's like taking some toys out of a toy chest, taking the time to get them organized in a tidy fashion, playing with them, but also making your enemies feel like they're stepping on Legos. It is extremely satisfying. As always, I'm Wiz. I'm gonna go catch some lightning. I'll hopefully see all of you pretty soon. But in the meantime, enjoy playing Cait Sith.